the word mafia sends shivers down our spines. We think of brutal gangsters, violent turf wars, and corrupt cops. But have you ever wondered how this criminal organization became so powerful? These were poor peasants who lived in a place called the Navarra region. They were done with the way they were being treated by the ruling class. So they took matters into their own hands. They were willing to do whatever it took to get what they wanted. There are even rumors that they're involved in illegal activities such as human cloning. The first thing you need to know about the Mafia is that they're highly organized. They're not just a bunch of thugs running around shooting people. They don't talk to outsiders, and they go to great lengths to protect their secrets. Members of the Mafia are expected to be loyal to their family, their friends, and their code. They're highly organized, adaptable, secretive, and loyal. If you ever find yourself crossing paths with these people, you should consider yourself lucky to get out alive. Now it's time for you to make your voice heard. Comment below. Do you know any Mafia facts that we missed? What are your thoughts on the Mafia? And how do you think they became so popular? Appreciate all feedback and hope to see you again soon. Thanks for watching. This is what makes them so dangerous. They're not afraid to kill people, even other members of the Mafia. If you cross the Mafia, you do so at your own risk. They won't hesitate to make an example out of you. One of the most famous cases of Mafia loyalty is the story of Tommaso Buscetta. Buscetta was a high-ranking member of the Sicilian Mafia who turned informant. He provided the police with a lot of valuable information, but he was eventually caught and killed by the Mafia. Even though he had betrayed his own kind, the Mafia still considered him to be one of theirs. And they made sure that he died knowing that he had been found. This is why so little is known about the Mafia today. Most of what we know comes from former members who turned informant, but even they can't provide much information because the Mafia is so secretive. If you're not born into the family, you're unlikely to ever know what goes on behind closed doors. The Mafia keeps its secrets close to the chest, and that's how they like it. You might be wondering how the Mafia is able to keep so many secrets hidden. After all, they're involved in some pretty shady stuff. And you'd think that at least some of it would be leaked eventually, but that's just not the way the Mafia works. They have a strict code of silence known as, which basically means that if you know something, you're not supposed to say anything. Members of the Mafia are often put to death if they break this code, and potential informants are often killed off before they have a chance to spill the beans. This code of silence is one of the reasons why the Mafia has been able to operate for so long. It makes it very difficult for law enforcement to get information about their activities. Even if they're able to arrest a few members, they're unlikely to get much information out of them. The Mafia is a brotherhood, and its members are willing to die rather than break the code of silence. They have a strict hierarchy in place that allows them to operate efficiently and effectively. At the top of the pyramid, you have the boss, who makes all the major decisions. Under him, you have the soldiers, who carry out the day-to-day operations. In between them, you have the consigliere, who acts as the boss's right-hand man, and the capo regime, who oversees the other soldiers. This hierarchical structure allows the Mafia to function like a well-oiled machine. Each member knows his role and carries it out without question. It also helps that the Mafia is made up of some really smart and ruthless people. They're not just dumb thugs who rely on brute force. They're strategic thinkers who know how to get what they want. This is why the Mafia has been able to survive for so long. Despite the best efforts of law enforcement, they've been able to adapt and change with the times. Which brings us to the second point, which is that the Mafia is very adaptable. But don't worry, because I am here to clear up any confusion about whether or not the Mafia is real or just a myth. Back then, they mainly focused on extortion and protection rackets. Nowadays, they're more likely to be involved in white-collar crime. For example, many Mafia members have been convicted of financial crimes such as fraud and embezzlement. This is because the Mafia has evolved along with society. The world becomes more complex, so too must the Mafia. If they want to stay ahead of the law, they need to be able to adapt and change with the times. And they've done just that. Today, the Mafia is a global organization with members all over the world. They're involved in all sorts of crimes, from drug trafficking to human trafficking. And they're more active than ever. Law enforcement is constantly battling the Mafia, but they seem to be one step ahead. The Mafia is a highly adaptable organization that can't be stopped. Well, I've got good news for you. The Mafia is very real, and they're more active than ever. Just last year, an Italian court convicted 37 members of the Sicilian Mafia for various crimes, including murder, extortion, and money laundering. This included torturing and murdering people. Their main source of income was kidnapping wealthy landowners and then ransoming them back to their families. They also robbed banks, trains, and businesses. Anything that could bring in a lot of money was fair game. The Mafia soon became so powerful that the Italian government was afraid of them. The police were unable to stop their crimes. The government had to make a deal with the Mafia. They agreed to let the Mafia keep some of the money they stole if they would agree to stop killing people. It seemed like the Mafia had won. They were now the most powerful group in Sicily. But it was only a matter of time before they got bored of this arrangement and went back to doing what they did best, which brings us to today. And that's how one of the most dangerous groups in history came to be. The story of how a small gang from Italy grew into a worldwide empire of crime is wild, to say the least. They hid out in the mountains and forests of the island. Since nobody wanted to mess with them, they basically had free reign over the territory. But as the years went on, they would become more organized and ambitious. They needed a name for their group, something that would strike fear into the hearts of their victims. And so they chose the word mafiosi, which means men of fear. Sometime in the 1860s, perhaps under the rule of King Victor Emmanuel II, or during the time of Joseph Garibaldi, there was a group of people living in eastern Sicily who had enough. These people were a gang of outlaws who would steal and kill at will. It didn't take long for the Mafia to make a name for themselves. The Mafia has been involved in all sorts of crimes throughout the years, from murder and extortion to drug trafficking and human trafficking. Now that we've established that the Mafia is very much a thing, let us take a look at how this small group of outlaws grew into a global empire of crime. They're not the same organization that it was 100 years ago. The third thing you need to know about the Mafia is that they're incredibly secretive. This brings us to the final point, which is that the Mafia is all about loyalty. So there you have it. The Mafia is a real organization that's more active than ever.